Maya Rodriguez stood in the cold white room and tried not to shake. The alien machine made strange buzzing sounds as it looked at her body. Red lights moved up and down her arms and legs like tiny spiders crawling on her skin. She had trained for this moment for 3 years, but nothing could have prepared her for how small she felt in this place. The creature examining her was tall and made of what looked like blue crystal. It had 4 eyes on long stalks that moved around to look at her from different angles. When it spoke, the words came out of a metal box on the wall in a flat robot voice that had no feelings in it. Physical strength is 2.3 out of 10, the alien said while looking at numbers that floated in the air. Mind powers are 0.1 out of 10. Natural armor is none. Healing speed is very slow. Fighting reflexes are okay but not good enough. Maya felt her face get hot. She had been the best student in her class at the military school. She could run faster and fight better than most of the other humans. She had led teams of soldiers through dangerous missions and saved hundreds of lives. But here, standing in front of this crystal alien, all of that meant nothing. Captain Ben Murphy stood next to her. He was her commanding officer and had come with her to this space station to prove that humans deserved to be part of the Galactic Army. His face looked worried as he listened to the alien's words. Maya looked around the room and saw other aliens being tested. There was a warrior from the Corvan race that looked like a giant bug with thick shell armor covering its body. The machine gave it a score of 8 out of 10 for strength and 9 out of 10 for defense. Another alien could move things with its mind without touching them. It scored 10 out of 10 for mind powers. This human is not good enough for fighting, the crystal alien announced. She should work in supply rooms or fix broken equipment. She cannot be a real soldier. Maya's hands turned into fists. She wanted to tell the alien that it was wrong, that she could fight as well as any of them. But she knew that would not help. The test was over, and she had failed. As they walked out of the testing room, Captain Murphy tried to make her feel better. "Do not worry about this, Maya. We knew this might happen. Humans are not built like them. We are different." But Maya was not listening to him. She was watching the other aliens in the hallway. She saw how they moved, how they talked to each other, how they acted around humans. Her brain was already working on something, trying to understand how these creatures thought and what made them strong. The space station was huge and filled with soldiers from dozens of different worlds. The bug-like Corvans walked around in groups, their heavy footsteps making the floor shake. The mind power aliens floated instead of walking and talked to each other without making any sounds. The reptile people moved very fast and had sharp claws that could cut through metal. All of them looked at the humans like they were children or pets. Some were polite about it, but Maya could see in their eyes that they thought humans were weak and useless. They moved past the human soldiers without saying hello or even looking at them properly. Maya spent the next few hours walking around the station and watching everything. She saw how the different alien races acted around each other. The Corvans respected strength and size. The mind power aliens respected intelligence and mental abilities. The reptile people respected speed and killing skills. Each group had their own way of showing who was important and who was not, but Maya noticed something else. Each alien race only understood their own kind of strength. The Corvans could not understand why the mind power aliens were useful because they were physically weak. The mind power aliens looked down on the reptile people because they were not very smart. Everyone had their own idea of what made someone valuable. That night, Maya lay in her small room on the station and stared at the ceiling. She thought about the test and how badly she had scored. She thought about all the training she had done and all the battles she had won. None of it mattered here because she was being judged by alien rules. She remembered a story her grandmother used to tell her about a small bird that lived in a forest full of big, strong animals. All the other animals laughed at the bird because it was tiny and could not fight or lift heavy things. But when a fire came to the forest, the bird was the only one who could fly high enough to see where the fire was going and warn all the other animals. The bird's weakness became its strength when the situation changed. Maya sat up in bed. Maybe the problem was not that humans were weak. Maybe the problem was that everyone was using the wrong test to measure strength. The aliens were all trying to be the best at what they were already good at, but humans had always been different. They survived not by being the strongest or the fastest, but by being smart and working together. She thought about all the alien soldiers she had seen that day. They were impressive, but they were also predictable. Each species fought in the same way their biology told them to fight. The Corvans used their armor and strength. The mind power aliens used their mental abilities. The reptile people used their speed and claws. They never changed their tactics because they never had to, but humans were different. Humans had learned to use tools and work as teams. They could think like their enemies and find new ways to solve problems. They could adapt and change when the situation required it. Maybe that was not a weakness. Maybe that was exactly what the Galactic Army needed. Maya made a decision that night. She would not try to be strong like the aliens. She would not try to pass their tests or meet their standards. Instead, she would show them that strength could mean something completely different. She would prove that being human was not a disadvantage, but a completely new way of being a soldier. She did not know how she would do it yet, but she knew she would find a way. The aliens had called her useless because she did not fit their definition of what a warrior should be. But Maya was going to change that definition, and when she did, the galaxy would never be the same again. 3 months later, Maya found herself working in a supply warehouse on a planet called Kepler 442b. The planet was hot and humid and smelled like rotting plants. It was not where she had imagined herself when she joined the Galactic Army, but it was where humans who failed the tests ended up. The warehouse was huge and filled with boxes of equipment, weapons, and food for the real soldiers fighting on other worlds. Maya spent her days counting supplies, checking lists, and making sure the right equipment went to the right places. It was boring work, but she did it perfectly because that was the kind of person she was. Commander Jake Harrison ran the supply depot. He was an older human who had also failed the alien tests years ago. He had gray hair and tired eyes, but he was kind to the humans who worked for him. He understood what it felt like to be told you were not good enough to fight. There were about 20 humans working at the depot. Most of them had been soldiers before coming here. Lisa Chang had been an engineer who could fix any machine, but the aliens said she was too weak to work on military equipment. Alex Rivera had been a communications expert who spoke 6 languages, but the aliens said his mind was not powerful enough for real military work. All of them had been good at their jobs before the tests. Now they were stuck on this backwater planet, watching real warriors prepare for battles. They would never be allowed to fight. The aliens who came to the depot treated the humans like they were barely there. The Corvan soldiers would walk past Maya without even looking at her. When she tried to help them find equipment, they would ignore her and look for alien workers instead. The mind power aliens would talk to each other in their heads, so the humans could not understand what they were saying. Maya watched how the different alien species acted around each other. The Corvans respected the reptile people because they were good fighters. The mind power aliens respected other mind power aliens because they could share thoughts. But none of them respected humans because humans could not do the things they thought were important. At first, Maya felt angry about this. She had risked her life to save people and had led successful missions that the aliens could never have done. But they could not see past their own ideas about what made someone valuable. Then, Maya decided to use her anger in a different way. Instead of being upset about how the aliens treated her, she started studying them. She watched how they moved, how they made decisions, how they solved problems. She learned about their weaknesses and their blind spots. The Corvans were very strong, but they were also very slow to change their minds. Once they decided on a plan, they would stick to it even if it stopped working. The mind power aliens were very smart, but they had trouble understanding things they could not think about directly. The reptile people were very fast, but they made decisions too quickly and sometimes chose the wrong thing. Maya started writing down everything she learned about the alien species. She made notes about their fighting styles, their equipment, their tactics, and their psychology. She studied their supply requests and figured out what they were planning to do. She began to see patterns that the aliens themselves did not notice. When Lisa mentioned that the Corvin power suits were breaking down too fast, Maya did not just write a report. She studied the problem and found that the humid air on their current planet was making the energy cells rust. The Corvins had not noticed this because they were used to dry climates. Maya found a way to protect the cells that saved the army. 30% of their equipment costs. When Alex told her that the different alien species were having trouble communicating during joint missions, Maya realized it was not a technology problem. It was because each species thought and made decisions at different speeds. The fast reptile people would make choices in seconds, while the careful Corvins needed minutes to think things through. Maya created a new system that helped them coordinate better, making their operations 40% more efficient, but every time Maya solved a problem or made an improvement, the alien commanders would thank her politely and then continue to treat her like she was just doing simple work. They could not see that she was actually thinking on a level that none of them could match. The breaking point came when Maya discovered something important while looking at supply requests. She noticed that the enemy was asking for certain types of equipment in a pattern that showed they were planning a major attack. The pattern was very subtle and would have been invisible to anyone who did not understand logistics as well as Maya did. Maya knew the enemy was going to attack the Coalition's main research base in 3 days. She had figured this out by looking at data that seemed unrelated, but her human brain could see connections that alien minds missed. She rushed to find Commander Zekthar, the mind power alien who was in charge of defending their sector. Maya explained what she had discovered and showed him all the data that proved the enemy was planning an attack. She begged him to strengthen the defenses at the research base. Zekthar listened to her with barely hidden annoyance. His 4 eyes looked at her like she was a child trying to explain something to an adult. Human, you are trained to count supplies, not to analyze intelligence. Leave such important matters to those who have the mental capacity for strategic thinking. Maya felt her face get hot, but she tried one more time. Please, just look at the data. The pattern is clear if you know how to see it. The enemy is going to attack in 3 days. But Zekthar had already turned away. Return to your duties, human. We have real soldiers to handle real problems. Maya went back to her work, but she could not stop thinking about what was going to happen. She knew she was right about the attack, but nobody would listen to her because she was just a human who counted boxes. 3 days later, the enemy attacked exactly when and where Maya had predicted. The Coalition research base was completely destroyed and hundreds of soldiers died. Important technology fell into enemy hands and the war effort was set back by months. Maya sat in her office and read the casualty reports. Every name on the list was someone who could have been saved if just one alien had listened to the useless human who counted supplies. She realized that the aliens were not just underestimating human abilities, they were putting everyone in danger by refusing to see what humans could contribute. That night, Maya made a decision. She was done trying to prove herself according to alien standards. She was going to develop her own way of fighting, one that used human strengths instead of trying to copy alien abilities. She was going to show the galaxy that being human was not a weakness, but a completely different kind of strength. Maya opened her notebook and began to write down ideas for something she called the human doctrine. She did not know if it would work, but she knew she had to try. Too many good soldiers had died because the aliens could not see past their own limited ideas about what made someone valuable. Maya spent the next few weeks thinking about what had happened at the research base. She kept seeing the faces of the soldiers who had died in the attack, knowing that all of them could have been saved if someone had listened to her warning. The aliens had been so sure that humans could not understand military strategy that they had ignored information that could have changed everything. She realized that both humans and aliens had been thinking about strength in the wrong way. The aliens measured how much weight someone could lift, how many enemies they could kill, or how fast they could heal from wounds. They saw war as a contest between individual fighters like ancient gladiators in an arena, but humans had evolved differently. They had survived on Earth not by being the strongest or fastest creatures, but by working together, using tools, and finding clever solutions to problems. Human strength was not in their muscles or their special powers, it was in their ability to see patterns, adapt to new situations, and coordinate with others. Maya started working on what she called the human doctrine. Instead of trying to match alien abilities, she would focus on things that humans were naturally good at. She would use human intelligence, creativity, and teamwork to find new ways to fight. She began by studying how each alien species fought. The Corvans relied on their thick armor and powerful weapons. They would charge straight at enemies and overpower them with brute force. The mind power aliens used their mental abilities to confuse enemies and predict their moves. The reptile people moved very fast and tried to overwhelm opponents with quick strikes. All of these fighting styles were based on each species' natural abilities. But Mayao noticed that this also made them predictable. A Corvan would always try to get close and use their strength. A mind power alien would always try to stay back and use their psychic powers. A reptile person would always try to move fast and strike quickly. Maya realized that humans could think like any of these species when they needed to. A human could understand how a Corvan thought, how a mind power alien made decisions, or how a reptile person would react in battle. This was not because humans were weak, but because they were adaptable. She started creating detailed files on every alien species she had encountered. She wrote down their strengths, their weaknesses, their fighting styles, and their psychological blind spots. She studied how they communicated, how they made decisions, and what scared them. Maya tested her ideas by working with the other humans at the depot. She taught Jake Harrison how to think like a Corvan commander. She showed Lisa Shang how to predict what equipment different alien species would need. She helped Alex Rivera understand how to communicate with aliens in ways that would make them listen. The breakthrough came when Maya realized that humans had something aliens could not copy. While aliens were locked into thinking like their own species, humans could shift their thinking to match whoever they were dealing with. This mental flexibility was disguised as weakness, but it was actually humanity's greatest advantage. Maya began developing new tactical approaches that used this ability. She created scenarios where small groups of humans, working together and using the right equipment, could defeat much larger alien forces. The key was not to fight aliens on their terms, but to force them to fight on human terms. She designed training exercises where humans would face simulated alien opponents. But instead of trying to be stronger or faster than their enemies, the humans would use coordination, deception, and rapid adaptation to win. They would change their tactics faster than the aliens could respond. The first real test of Maya's theories came when a Corvan patrol reported strange energy readings in a nearby sector. The standard response would have been to send a full team with heavy weapons and psychic scanners. But Maya suggested a different approach. She proposed using small, human-designed drones with passive sensors that could map the area without being detected. The drones were not as powerful as alien technology, but they were quiet and could gather information without alerting potential enemies. Commander Harrison was skeptical at first. The aliens have better sensors than we do, Maya. Why would our drones work better than their equipment? Maya explained her thinking. Their sensors are designed to detect things that their species would use, but our enemies might be using technology that aliens would not expect. Human-designed equipment might pick up things that alien sensors miss. The drones were deployed and quickly discovered something that would have surprised the aliens. There was indeed an ambush waiting in the sector, but it was not set up the way alien forces would have expected. The enemy had studied alien tactics and prepared for the standard coalition response. If the reconnaissance team had gone in with standard procedures, they would have walked straight into a trap that would have killed them all. But the human drones had revealed the ambush from angles that alien thinking would never have considered. The aliens were impressed by the success of the mission, but they attributed it to superior human technology rather than strategic thinking. They could not see that the real breakthrough was in how humans approach problems differently than any other species. Maya continued developing her ideas. She created psychological profiles of enemy species, identifying their patterns of thought and behavior. She found ways to exploit their assumptions and use their own strengths against them. She developed communication protocols that would allow humans to coordinate with aliens more effectively. Most importantly, she began training the humans at the depot to think like military strategists rather than supply clerks. She taught them to see the big picture, to understand how all the pieces of a military operation fit together, and to find creative solutions to complex problems. The humans practiced these new techniques in secret, running simulations and exercises when the aliens were not watching. They learned to work as a team in ways that no alien species had ever managed. They developed fluid tactics that could change instantly based on new information. Maya knew that her theories were sound, but she also knew that the aliens would never take them seriously until they were proven in real combat. She needed a chance to demonstrate that humans could not only fight alongside aliens, but could lead them to victory in ways that had never been possible before. That chance came sooner than she expected. Intelligence reports indicated that enemy forces were planning a major attack on the supply depot itself. The skeleton crew of humans and a few alien guards would be all that stood between the invaders and critical coalition resources. Maya realized that this was her moment. She would either prove that humans deserved their place as equals in the galactic army, or she would fail and confirm that they were truly useless. But she was not afraid because she knew something the aliens did not understand yet. Being human was not a weakness that needed to be overcome. It was a strength that the galaxy had never seen before. The attack began at 3:47 in the morning when the base alarm started screaming. Maya jumped out of bed and ran to the command center where Jake Harrison was already looking at the sensor displays. Red dots were appearing all around the depot, but the sensors could not get a clear reading on what they were. Vorthek raiders, Maya said immediately when she saw the strange sensor patterns. They can phase through solid matter, which is why our equipment cannot track them properly. Jake looked worried. How many of them? Maya studied the displays and counted the distortions. At least 30, maybe more. They are trying to surround the entire depot before they attack. The Vorthek were one of the most dangerous enemy species. They could make their bodies invisible and walk through walls like ghosts. Most coalition forces could not fight them effectively because traditional weapons and sensors did not work against their phase-shifting abilities, but Maya had studied the Vorthek for months. She knew that their phase shifting created small electromagnetic disturbances that human-designed equipment could detect if you knew what to look for. She had modified the depot sensors weeks ago to watch for exactly this kind of attack. All units, this is Rodriguez, Maya spoke into the communication system. Execute Protocol Omega-7. Remember, we are not trying to outfight them. We are going to outthink them. The human defenders moved quickly to their positions. Jake led a team to the main power core, not to defend it directly, but to set up an electromagnetic trap that would force the Vorthek to become solid again. Lisa Chang activated her engineering systems, turning the depot's maintenance equipment into a network of sensors and defensive tools. Alex Rivera coordinated with the few alien defenders still at the base. There were only 6 Corvan soldiers and 3 mind power aliens, but Maya had a plan to make them much more effective than their numbers suggested. The Vorthek had attacked coalition bases 17 times before and had won every battle. They were experts at using their phase shifting to appear behind enemy lines and strike before anyone could react. But Maya had studied all of those previous attacks and found the patterns in how they operated. Lisa, can you create an electromagnetic pulse from Reactor 7? Maya asked. That is not what it is designed for, Lisa replied while working at her control panel. But if I change the power flow and reverse the magnetic field, yes, I can. Do it. Alex, tell the Corvan soldiers to fall back when I give the signal, but make it look like they are retreating in panic. They will not like that, Alex warned. They do not have to like it, they just have to trust us. Maya watched the enemy movement on her displays. The Vorthak were following their usual pattern, trying to phase through the outer walls and surround the defenders. But Maya had prepared for exactly this tactic. The first wave of attackers materialized inside the depot's main corridor. They were tall, dark creatures with long claws and glowing red eyes. They moved like shadows, appearing and disappearing. As they advanced toward the human positions, the Corvan defenders opened fire with their heavy weapons, but the energy beams passed right through the phased enemies. The Vorthak laughed and continued their advance, confident that nothing could stop them, but Maya was ready. "Lisa, activate the electromagnetic fields now." Suddenly, the air around the Vorthak began to shimmer with electrical energy. The attackers found themselves trapped between invisible walls of electromagnetic force that prevented them from phasing back out of normal space. They were solid now and vulnerable to conventional weapons. "All units, concentrate fire on Grid 7, Maya commanded. They cannot phase out while the field is active." The coalition defenders opened fire and several Vorthak fell immediately. But the enemy commander was smart and ordered his forces to retreat and try a different approach. Maya anticipated this. "Jake, they are going to try to overload our power systems and shut down the electromagnetic traps. Be ready to switch to backup power on my command." The Vorthak leader was a massive creature with natural armor plating that made it nearly invulnerable to small weapons fire. It phased through the depot's outer wall and headed straight for the main power core, intending to destroy the electromagnetic field generators. The alien defenders prepared for a direct confrontation, but Maya had a different idea. She had studied Vorthak psychology and knew that their leaders were proud and aggressive. They always attacked the strongest opposition first, which made them predictable. "All defenders, fall back from the power core," Maya ordered. "Make it look like we are retreating." The Corvan soldiers did not like this command, but they had learned to trust human tactical decisions after the success with the drones. They pulled back from their defensive positions, making it appear that they were abandoning the power core. The Vorthak leader saw what looked like a perfect opportunity. It charged forward toward the apparently undefended power core, bringing several other attackers with it. Maya waited until they were exactly where she wanted them. "Lisa, gravity pulse now. Alex, tell the Corvans to fire everything they have at the power core area." Lisa had rigged one of the reactors to create a localized gravity distortion. The sudden increase in gravitational force caught the Vorthak leader and its followers in normal space, making it impossible for them to phase out. At the same moment, the repositioned Corvan soldiers opened fire from new angles that the enemy had not expected. The concentrated firepower caught the Vorthak leadership completely off guard. The creatures who had seemed unstoppable just moments before found themselves trapped and outnumbered. The battle turned quickly in favor of the defenders. Within an hour, the attack was completely defeated. The surviving Vorthak retreated in confusion, unable to understand how their proven tactics had failed so completely. They had expected to face standard coalition defenses and instead had encountered something they had never seen before. As the base returned to normal operations, Maya found herself face to face with Commander Zekthar, who had arrived with reinforcements just as the battle was ending. The mind power alien studied the tactical displays with obvious confusion. "How did you predict their movements?" he asked. "Our intelligence indicated this was a random raid." Maya smiled for the first time in months. It was not random. "They have been watching our defenses for weeks, sending small scouts to test our responses. I could see the pattern in their reconnaissance flights and supply movements. You just had to know how to look." Zekthar stared at her with all four of his eyes. For the first time since arriving at the depot, Maya saw something different in an alien's expression when they looked at her. It was not dismissal or polite tolerance, but genuine respect. "You defeated an enemy that has never been beaten before," Zekthar said slowly. "How is this possible for a human who was rated as unsuitable for combat?" Maya looked around at the other humans who had fought in the battle. Jake, Lisa, Alex, and the others were all smiling with pride and satisfaction. They had proven something. Important today, not just to the aliens, but to themselves. Maybe, Maya said quietly, you have been using the wrong test to measure what makes a good soldier. News of the depot defense spread through the coalition military faster than Maya had expected. Within days, officers from every major species were asking questions about how a group of humans had defeated the Vorthek when elite alien warriors had failed for years. Maya found herself summoned to coalition headquarters on Proxima Station, the same place where she had been labeled useless just months before. The journey to headquarters felt different this time. Instead of traveling as a rejected candidate, Maya was escorted as a military advisor. The transport ship carried reports of her victory, tactical analyses of the battle, and requests from dozens of commanders who wanted to understand what the humans had done. When Maya arrived at Proxima Station, she was taken to the same assessment chamber where her military career had nearly ended. But now the room was filled with high-ranking officers from across the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Kethver, a massive Corvan with battle scars covering his crystal shell, stood at the center of the group. Lieutenant Rodriguez, the Admiral spoke with careful respect. Your defense of the supply depot has raised important questions about our military methods. We would like you to explain how you achieved this victory. Maya looked around the room at the assembled commanders. These were the same species that had dismissed humanity as weak and useless. Now they were asking her to teach them how to fight better. She felt a moment of satisfaction, but she knew this was about more than proving herself right. The problem is that you have been measuring strength incorrectly, Maya began. Every species here contributes their natural abilities to our forces. Corvan armor, Tellurian mind powers, Saurian speed and healing, but war is not just about individual abilities. It is about systems, coordination, and adapting faster than your enemy. She activated a holographic display showing the depot battle. The Vorthak had defeated our forces 17 times using the same basic tactics. They have superior technology and excellent training. By every measurement you use, they should have won again. But they did not account for one thing that humans do differently. The display showed weeks of preparation before the attack. Maya pointed to patterns in the data that revealed the enemy's reconnaissance efforts. Humans do not just see individual actions, we see connections, relationships, and trends over time. We can predict behavior not because we have special powers, but because we understand that all intelligent species, including our enemies, think in predictable ways. Admiral Kethver leaned forward with interest. You are saying that human weakness is actually a strength? I am saying that you have been defining strength wrong, Maya replied. A Corvan warrior can lift heavy objects and survive plasma fire. That is one kind of strength. But a human can analyze thousands of variables, coordinate complex operations, and change tactics faster than most species can understand what is happening. That is a different kind of strength. She gestured to the tactical display. Every species in this room is trying to improve their natural abilities. Corvans build better armor, Tellurians increase their psychic range, Saurians enhance their healing. But humans took a different path. We learned to use tools, work together, and create systems that are stronger than any individual. Maya paused to let this sink in before continuing. The enemy has been winning because they learned to fight the kind of war you taught them to expect. They prepare for Corvan strength, Tellurian mind attacks, and Saurian speed. They do not prepare for human unpredictability, innovation, or coordination. Over the following weeks, Maya worked with coalition strategists to develop what became known as the Human Integration Protocol. Instead of putting humans in support roles, the new system placed them in coordination positions where their unique abilities could be fully used. Human officers began leading mixed-species units, not because they were the strongest fighters, but because they could think like their enemies, adapt to changing situations, and coordinate different abilities into effective tactics. The results were immediate and impressive. Maya watched the first major test of the new system from the bridge of the coalition flagship. The enemy had gathered a large fleet expecting to face traditional coalition tactics. Instead, they encountered something completely new: human tactical coordinators directed Corvin assault units, Tellurian specialists, and Saurian rapid response teams in a coordinated attack that changed faster than the enemy could respond. The enemy fleet, prepared for predictable alien tactics, was completely outmaneuvered. "Status report," Maya requested from her position as chief tactical advisor. "Enemy fleet is retreating," reported Lisa Chong, who now served as the fleet's strategic analyst. "Casualty ratio is 12-1 in our favor. They never adapted to our tactical changes." Maya nodded, but she felt thoughtful rather than celebratory. The aliens had been wrong about human strength, but humans had been wrong about it too. For too long, humans had accepted alien definitions of value and tried to measure themselves against standards that were never meant for them. The real victory was not just winning this battle, but understanding that true strength was not about matching what others could do. It was about understanding what you could do that others could not. Humans had spent so much time trying to be like aliens that they had forgotten the value of being human. As the war continued, Maya knew this was only the beginning. They had changed how one military force operated, but the real challenge would be helping humanity understand that their greatest power had always been their ability to see beyond traditional limits. She remembered the day she had been called useless by alien standards. The crystal examiner had measured her strength, speed, and special abilities and found them lacking. But those measurements had missed the most important thing about humans: their capacity to redefine what was possible. Maya looked out at the stars through the ship's main viewport. Somewhere out there, other human colonies were still struggling to prove themselves worthy of acceptance. Other young soldiers were being told they were not strong enough or fast enough or special enough to matter. But Maya knew something now that she had not understood before. Being human was not about meeting someone else's standards or proving that you could do what they could do. Being human was about finding new ways to solve problems, new ways to work together, and new ways to turn apparent weaknesses into unexpected strengths. The galaxy was learning that human strength came not from what they could lift or how fast they could run, but from what they could imagine, create, and accomplish when they worked together. And that lesson was changing everything. Maya had been labeled useless by alien standards. In response, she had redefined what strength meant. And in doing so, she had given humanity its rightful place among the stars, not as inferior copies of alien warriors, but as something entirely new and uniquely powerful. The universe would never be the same again.